Sarah Martinez thought she was installing a simple pool kit in her backyard until her neighbor Karen's anonymous tip to the city triggered a $50,000 fine and an investigation that would expose secrets neither of them saw coming. What started as a weekend project would become a war that destroyed friendships, revealed hidden corruption, and proved that sometimes the biggest lies come from the people you trust most. The delivery truck's diesel engine rumbled to life at 6:47 a.m., leaving behind a neat stack of pool kit components in Sarah Martinez's driveway. She stood in her pajamas and fuzzy slippers, coffee mug in hand, surveying the boxers with the satisfaction of someone who'd saved for 18 months to afford this moment. Finally, she whispered to herself, steam rising from her cup in the crisp morning air. Behind her, the sliding door opened with a soft whoosh. "Mommy, is that our pool?" 8-year-old Emma bounded outside her superhero pajamas, a stark contrast to the suburban quiet. "Not yet, baby, but it will be. Remember what we talked about? This is going to be your surprise birthday present." Emma's eyes went wide. The best birthday present ever. The best birthday present ever, Sarah agreed, though her bank account might disagree. The pool kit had cost nearly $8,000 money. She'd scraped together from overtime shifts at the hospital and selling her grandmother's antique jewelry. But Emma had been asking for swimming lessons, and with public pools so crowded and expensive, this felt like the right choice, an investment in her daughter's happiness. "Can we start building it now?" Emma bounced on her toes after breakfast, and after Mommy reads the instructions about 50 times, Sarah laughed, guiding Emma back inside. "Go get dressed. We've got a big day ahead of us." As they disappeared into the house, neither noticed the Venetian blinds snapping shut in the colonial-style home next door, or the shadow of a woman stepping back from the window. Karen Whitmore had been watching from her kitchen window since the delivery truck arrived. She'd seen the boxers, counted them, photographed them through the glass with her iPhone. The Martinez woman was up to something, and Karen intended to find out what. At 52. Karen had lived in Maple Grove subdivision for 15 years longer than almost anyone except old Mr. Henderson, who'd been here since the houses were built. She considered herself the unofficial neighborhood watch coordinator, though no one had actually appointed her to the position. Someone had to maintain standards. After all, someone had to ensure that property values stayed high and that newcomers understood the expectations. Sarah Martinez had moved in 3 years ago, a single mother with a chronically ill child, or so Karen had heard. The woman worked odd hours at the hospital, coming and going at all times of day and night. Her lawn wasn't always perfectly manicured. Her garbage cans sometimes stayed out an extra day. Small infractions, perhaps, but infractions nonetheless. And now this Karen scrolled through the photos on her phone, zooming in on the delivery labels. The boxers were unmarked, except for a shipping company logo, but their size and shape suggested something significant, something that would require construction. She opened her laptop and navigated to the city's building permit database. A quick search for Sarah Martinez's address yielded no results, no approvals. For major home improvements, Karen's pulse quickened. This was exactly the kind of violation that undermined the entire neighborhood. If people could just build whatever they wanted without proper permits and inspections, where would it end? Property values would plummet. The carefully maintained aesthetic of Maple Grove. City of Riverside, Code Enforcement Division. This is Janet. Yes, hello. I'd like to report a potential building violation. Karen's voice took on the authoritative tone she'd perfected during her years as a middle school principal. My neighbor appears to be conducting construction without permits. What's the address, ma'am? 247 Maple Drive. The homeowner is Sarah Martinez. I witnessed a large delivery this morning, construction materials clearly intended for some kind of major project. I've checked the permit database, and there's nothing on file. I see. And what type of construction do you believe is taking place? Karen paused. She didn't actually know, but admitting ignorance would weaken her complaint. It appears to be some kind of structural addition, possibly a deck or patio extension. The materials suggest significant excavation may be required. We'll send an inspector out within the next few business days. Thank you for the report. Karen hung up with a sense of civic duty fulfilled. She'd done the right thing, the responsible thing. 3 hours later, Sarah had spread the pool kit instructions across her kitchen table like a battle plan. The manual was 43 pages long, written in 3 languages and illustrated with diagrams that looked like they'd been drawn by someone who'd never actually seen a backyard pool. Okay, Emma, step 1. Ensure installation site meets all local building codes and regulations, Sarah read aloud. Step 2. Obtain necessary permits before beginning construction. Emma, who'd been coloring at the other end of the table, looked up. What's a permit? It's like permission from the city to make sure we're building something safe. Sarah frowned at the manual. The pool kit was supposed to be simple, basically a large, preformed fiberglass shell that sat partially above ground. The marketing materials had emphasized how it was perfect for DIY installation, requiring only basic excavation and plumbing connections. But the permit requirement worried her. She'd researched pool installations online and found conflicting information. Some sources suggested that above-ground pools didn't require permits. Others were more cautious. The pool kit manufacturer's website had a disclaimer about checking local regulations, but their customer service line had assured her that most installations were straightforward. Sarah opened her laptop and navigated to the city's website. The building permit section was a maze of forms, fees, and requirements. Commercial pool installations clearly required permits and inspections. But her kit was more like a large hot tub. It didn't even require a concrete foundation. She found a phone number for the city's permit office and dialed, "Riverside Building Department. This is Mike. Hi, I have a question about whether I need a permit for a pool installation." "What kind of pool?" "It's a small above-ground pool kit, fiberglass, about 12 feet by 20 feet. Is it permanent or temporary?" Sarah hesitated. The pool would be semi-permanent, designed to last for years, but not necessarily forever. "I guess, permanent?" "If it's permanent and holds more than 5,000 gallons, you'll need a building permit. You'll also need electrical permits for any pumps or filtration systems, and possibly plumbing permits depending on your setup." Sarah's heart sank. "How much do those permits cost?" Building permit fee is based on the estimated cost of construction. For a pool, you're probably looking at $800 to $1,200. Electrical and plumbing permits are additional, $800 to $1,200, plus the time to file applications, wait for approvals, schedule inspections. Sarah had planned to install the pool over the long weekend, surprising Emma with a finished product by her birthday on Sunday. How long does the permit process take? 4 to 6 weeks for a standard pool installation, longer if there are any complications with your application. 6 weeks. Emma's birthday was in 5 days. Is there any way to expedite the process? You can apply for an expedited review for an additional fee, but I wouldn't recommend starting construction until all permits are approved. If an inspector finds unpermitted work, you could face significant fines. Sarah thanked Mike and hung up, staring at the pool kit instructions. The smart thing would be to file for permits and wait. But Emma had been so excited, and the pool kit was specifically designed for easy installation. It wasn't like she was building a complex structure that needed engineering oversight. Maybe could install it over the weekend and file for permits on Monday. The pool would be finished and functional, and the permit process would just be a formality. Her phone buzzed with a text from her sister Lisa. "How's the pool project going?" "Emma must be so excited," Sarah typed back, still figuring out the logistics. "But yes, she's over the moon." The truth was more complicated. Emma had been asking for swimming lessons since her diagnosis with juvenile arthritis 2 years ago. The doctors had recommended low-impact exercise, especially swimming, to help manage her joint pain and maintain flexibility. But public pools were crowded and expensive, and private lessons were beyond Sarah's budget as a single mother working as a nurse's aide. This pool kit represented months of careful saving, overtime shifts, and sacrifices. It was Emma's ticket to the kind of childhood Sarah wanted to give her one, where chronic illness didn't define the boundaries of possibility. Looking at her daughter, who was now drawing pictures of herself swimming with dolphins, Sarah made her decision. "Emma, how would you like to help Mommy build your pool today?" Emma's crayon stopped mid-stroke. "Today? Really? Really? But remember, it's still a surprise. We can't tell anyone until it's finished." "Okay." Emma nodded solemnly, as if Sarah had just entrusted her with state secrets. They spent the afternoon in the backyard. Jennifer Walsh's office was located in a strip mall between a nail salon and a tax preparation service. but she'd managed to make the small space feel expensive. Everything was white and chrome, from the reception desk to the abstract art on the walls. Clutching a folder of documents she'd hastily assembled, "I appreciate you meeting with me on such short notice," Jennifer said, settling behind her desk with a cup of coffee that smelled like it cost more than Sarah's usual grocery budget for caffeine. "I want to be clear from the start time here. To help you navigate this situation," Sarah remained skeptical. "This morning you were talking about HOA violations and membership fees, because that's the reality of your situation. But I've been thinking about your case, and I believe there might be a path forward that works for everyone." Jennifer opened a manila folder. "Tell me about your daughter's medical condition." The question caught Sarah off guard. "I'm sorry, Emma, right? 8 years old. I noticed she seemed to have some mobility issues when she came outside this morning." Sarah's protective instincts flared. "What does that have to do with anything? More than you might think. The Americans with Disabilities Act provides certain protections for reasonable accommodations. If your daughter's medical condition requires aquatic therapy, there might be grounds for expediting your permit process." Sarah blinked. She'd never considered the legal implications of Emma's arthritis diagnosis. Her doctors did recommend swimming as low-impact exercise. "Do you have documentation of that recommendation?" "Yes, from her rheumatologist. But I don't understand how this helps with the violation notice." Jennifer leaned forward, her expression suddenly more animated. "Here's what I'm thinking. We position your pool installation as a medical accommodation rather than a recreational addition. File an appeal with the city based on ADA requirements. Meanwhile, you join the HOA. Can waive the membership fee given the circumstances, and we fast-track your architectural review." It sounded too good to be true, which made Sarah suspicious. "What's the catch?" "No catch. Just ... a small favor." Jennifer's smile was perfectly calibrated. "I'm running for city council next year, and I've been building a platform around disability rights and neighborhood advocacy. Your case could be a perfect example of how current city policies fail to accommodate families with special needs." Sarah felt the conversation shift into uncomfortable territory. "You want to use my daughter's condition for your campaign? I want to help your daughter get the pool she needs while also highlighting an important policy issue. Everyone wins." Before Sarah could respond, Jennifer's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, and her expression darkened. "Excuse me for just a moment." She stepped into the hallway, and Sarah could hear her voice through the thin walls, though not the words. When Jennifer returned, her demeanor had changed. The helpful advocate was gone, replaced by someone who looked like she'd just received very bad news. "I'm afraid we have a problem," Jennifer said, sitting heavily in her chair. "That was Inspector Davis. Someone has filed an additional complaint about your property." Sarah's stomach dropped. "What kind of complaint? Environmental violation? They're claiming your excavation has disrupted natural drainage patterns and may be causing water to pool in neighboring yards." "That's impossible. I've been so careful to stay within my property lines. It doesn't matter if it's true. What matters is that environmental services will now need to conduct their own investigation before any permits can be approved. That could take months." Sarah stared at Jennifer, trying to process this new disaster. "Who filed the complaint?" The caller didn't leave a name, but ... double quotes, Jennifer hesitated. "Inspector Davis mentioned that the person seemed very familiar with city regulations. They cited specific code sections and referenced previous cases. Someone with experience filing complaints. That would be my guess." Sarah thought about Karen Whitmore, remembering the woman's authoritative tone when they'd met briefly at the mailboxes last month. Karen had mentioned working in education principal or administrator of some kind. Someone accustomed to dealing with bureaucracy and regulations. "Can you find out who filed the complaint?" "Officially, no. The city protects complainant privacy. But ... double quotes. Jennifer's smile returned, though it looked different now, sharper. "There are ways to gather information. It would require a different kind of arrangement." "What do you mean?" "I have contacts throughout the city government. People who owe me favors. I could find out who's targeting you and why. But it would mean committing to work with me on the political angle I mentioned." Sarah felt trapped between bad options. Work with Jennifer and potentially exploit Emma's medical condition, or face an escalating series of violations that could cost thousands of dollars she didn't have. I need time to think about it. Jennifer's expression hardened slightly. Time is something you don't have much of, Sarah. The daily fines start accruing. Immediately, environmental violations carry even steeper penalties than building code violations. How steep? Up to $5,000 per day for environmental damage. Sarah's vision blurred for a moment. $5,000 per day. She made $35,000 a year as a nurse's aide. Emma's medical bills already consumed most of her income. "I'll call you tomorrow," she managed to say, gathering her folder. On the drive home, Sarah's phone rang. The caller ID showed Emma's school, Ms. Martinez. "This is Mrs. Peterson, Emma's teacher. Could you come in for a brief meeting this afternoon?" Sarah's day was already overwhelming, but something in the teacher's tone made her anxious. "Is Emma okay?" "She's fine, but there's a situation we need to discuss. Are you available around 4 p.m.? Sarah agreed and hung up, wondering what else could possibly go wrong. Riverside Elementary was the kind of school that tried hard with limited resources. The hallways were clean but worn, decorated with student artwork and motivational posters. Sarah found Mrs. Peterson in her classroom, grading papers, while Emma sat in the reading corner with a book. "Emma, sweetie, could you wait in the library for a few minutes while I talk to your mom?" Mrs. Peterson asked. After Emma left, Mrs. Peterson closed the door and gestured for Sarah to sit at one of the student desks. "I wanted to talk to you about something Emma said during our sharing circle today. She mentioned that your family is having some trouble with your house." Sarah's heart sank. "What exactly did she say?" "She told the class that important people came to your house because you were building something wrong and that now you might have to pay a lot of money." She seemed quite upset about it. Sarah rubbed her temples, feeling a headache building. "We're dealing with some permit issues for a home improvement project. I didn't realize she was so worried about it. She also mentioned that someone called the police on you." "Not police, city inspectors. But I can see how that would be confusing for her." Mrs. Peterson leaned forward, her expression sympathetic. "Sarah, I've been Emma's teacher for 2 years. I know you're doing everything you can to provide for her, especially with her medical needs. If there's anything the school can do to help, ... The kindness in Mrs. Peterson's voice nearly broke Sarah's composure. "Thank you. We'll be okay. I just need to figure out some bureaucratic issues. There's one more thing. Emma mentioned that the pool you're building is for her arthritis, to help with her pain. She's been telling the other kids about how she'll finally be able to swim without her joints hurting." Sarah closed her eyes. Emma had been so excited, so hopeful. The pool wasn't just a luxury, it was a promise of relief from the chronic pain that had shadowed her daughter's childhood. "Mrs. Peterson, if Emma seems distracted or upset over the next few days, that's why. We're working through some complications with the project." On the drive home, Emma was unusually quiet. Finally, she spoke up from the back seat. "Mommy, are we in trouble?" "Just some grown-up problems that I need to fix." "Is it because of the pool?" "Sort of, but don't worry about it." "Okay, it's not your job to worry about grown-up problems." "But what if we can't build it? What if I can't swim?" Sarah pulled into their driveway and turned to face Emma. "Listen to me. No matter what happens with the pool, we're going to figure out a way for you to swim. I promise." Emma nodded, but Sarah could see the doubt in her 8-year-old eyes. Children were remarkably good at sensing when adults were making promises they might not be able to keep. That evening, after Emma went to bed, Sarah sat at her kitchen table with a calculator and a stack of bills. The math was brutal. Even if she stopped the violation process immediately by filling in the excavation, she'd still owe thousands in fines. If she tried to complete the project legally, the permit fees and required contractor work would cost more than she'd spent on the pool kit itself. Her phone buzzed with a text from Jennifer Walsh. "I've learned more about your situation. We should talk soon. Time is critical." Sarah stared at the message, wondering what Jennifer had discovered. Before she could decide whether to respond, her doorbell rang. Through the peephole, she saw a man in a business suit holding a briefcase. She opened the door cautiously. "Ms. Martinez, I'm Robert Chen from the city attorney's office. I need to S." Jennifer Walsh's office felt different this time, less welcoming, more transactional. Sarah sat across from Jennifer's desk, while the lawyer arranged several manila folders with the precision of someone dealing cards. "Before we begin, I need..." "You two understand something," Jennifer said. "What I'm about to tell you doesn't leave this room unless you agree to work with me. Are we clear?" Sarah nodded, though uncertainty gnawed at her stomach. Jennifer opened the first folder and spread out several pages of what looked like city records. Karen Whitmore has filed 17 complaints with various city departments over the past 3 years. Noise violations, property maintenance infractions, parking disputes, building code violations, 17 different households. At the documents, 17, she's systematic about it. Files initial complaints, then escalates when departments don't respond quickly enough. Uses different regulations and code sections to attack the same properties from multiple angles. Jennifer pointed to a highlighted chart. "Look at this pattern." The chart showed a timeline of complaints, color-coded by type. What emerged was a clear strategy. Karen would start with minor infractions, then escalate to more serious violations that carried financial penalties. The Rodriguez family, they lived 4 houses down from Eufastala, $12,000 in fines for an unpermitted deck repair. They ended up selling their house at a loss and moving out of state. That's harassment. Technically, it's lawful. Use of city complaint processes. Karen knows the regulations better than most city employees. She used to work for the state education department, specifically in compliance and regulatory enforcement. Sarah felt pieces clicking into place, so she knows how bureaucracy works. She authored several publications on regulatory compliance for school districts. Jennifer opened another folder. But here's what's interesting about your case specifically. The new documents looked different: property records, financial information, what appeared to be government forms. Act request for your property records 3 days before your pool delivery, Jennifer continued. She requested income verification documents, mortgage information, and any subsidies or assistance programs associated with your address. Sarah's blood went cold. She investigated my finances. She discovered that Emma's medical condition qualifies your family for several assistance programs: property tax relief for disabled family members, utility assistance, medical equipment, subsidies. Those are legitimate programs. Emma has juvenile arthritis. I know, but Karen sees it differently. She's convinced that you're living beyond your means with government help, and that the pool project proves you're abusing the system. Sarah stared at the documents, feeling violated in a way that went beyond the building violations. Had been digging through her family's private information, judging her financial decisions, cataloging her struggles. "How do you know all this?" Jennifer's smile was sharp. She filed a formal complaint with the State Fraud Investigation Unit, claiming that you were using disability assistance funds to pay for luxury home improvements. She what? The state forwarded her complaint to the appropriate agencies for investigation. Those agencies contacted me because I've represented several families in disability rights cases. They wanted to verify that your pool project qualified as a reasonable medical accommodation. Sarah's mind reeled. So there's a fraud investigation? There was, until the investigators reviewed your case and determined that Karen's complaint was frivolous. A therapeutic pool for a child with arthritis clearly qualifies as a medical accommodation, especially with doctors' recommendations. Then why are you telling me this? Jennifer leaned forward, her expression intense. Because the fraud investigation revealed something else. Something about Karen that she definitely doesn't want public. Jennifer opened a third folder, and Sarah saw pages of what looked like financial records and property documents. Karen Whitmore has been claiming a homestead exemption on her property for the past 8 years. That's a tax break for primary residences. So her primary residence is actually a condo in Florida. She's been using the Maple Grove house as a rental property while claiming tax exemptions for owner occupancy. That's tax fraud, and it's been costing the county approximately $3,000 per year in lost revenue. Sarah stared at the documents. She doesn't actually live next door to me. She spends about 4 months a year in the Maple Grove house, usually during summer and fall. The rest of the time, she rents it out through various online platforms. Technically, she's running an unlicensed short-term rental business in a residential neighborhood that's zoned against commercial rentals. The implications hit Sarah like a physical blow. Karen had been systematically targeting neighbors for minor violations while committing serious legal violations herself. Have you reported this to the authorities? Not yet. That's where you come in. Jennifer's smile returned. I'm proposing a deal. You agree to work with me on the political campaign Angled Disability Rights, Bureaucratic Reform, Standing Up for Families, and I use this information to neutralize Karen's attacks on you. Sarah felt sick. You want me to blackmail my neighbor? I want you to level the playing field? Karen has been using the legal system as a weapon against your family. This gives you a shield. What about just reporting her violations to the appropriate authorities and letting justice take its course? Jennifer's expression hardened. Justice doesn't pay your mounting fine, Sarah. You've got maybe a week before the daily penalties. Exceed your annual income, and Karen isn't going to stop filing complaints just because her own violations come to light. She'll escalate. How could she escalate more than she already has? Child Protective Services. Ice water. What about CPS? Think about it from Karen's perspective. She's convinced that you're financially irresponsible and using disability assistance inappropriately. Your daughter has a chronic medical condition, and you're facing mounting legal troubles. Karen could easily frame this as a situation where Emma's welfare is at risk. Sarah's hands started shaking. She absolutely would. I've seen her complaint history, Sarah. She escalates until people give up and move away. A CPS investigation would be devastating for your family, even if it ultimately cleared you. The threat hung in the air between them like a loaded weapon. Sarah thought about Emma at school, worried about grown-up problems she couldn't understand. The idea of her daughter being questioned by social workers, potentially removed from their home while investigations proceeded, was unbearable. What exactly are you proposing? You agreed to be the public face of my disability rights campaign. We hold a press conference tomorrow morning. Position your case as an example of bureaucratic overreach targeting families with special needs. I file complaints against Karen for tax fraud and zoning violations. The media attention and legal pressure forced the city to expedite your permits. And if I say no, Jennifer gathered the folders into a neat stack. Then you're on your own against Karen Whitmore and the city bureaucracy. Good luck with that. Sarah left Jennifer's office feeling more trapped than when she'd arrived. The lawyer had offered her a weapon against Karen, Emma's medical condition, for political gain. She drove home through the familiar streets of Maple Grove, seeing the neighborhood differently now. How many of these perfect lawns and pristine houses had been protected by Karen's systematic enforcement of standards? How many families had been driven away by complaints and violations? When she pulled into her driveway, she noticed a silver sedan parked across the street. As she gathered her purse and the folders Jennifer had given her, a woman emerged from the sedan and approached. Ms. Martinez. I'm Detective Linda Ramirez with the County Sheriff's Office. Could I speak with you for a few minutes? Sarah's heart hammered. Is this about the building violations? No, ma'am. We've received some concerning reports about your neighbor, Karen Whitmore. I understand you've been having disputes with her. They sat in Sarah's living room while Detective Ramirez took notes. Sarah explained the complaints, the violations, the escalating fines. Has Ms. Whitmore ever approached you directly about these issues? Detective Ramirez asked. No, everything has been through the city. Why are you investigating her? We've received reports that she's been conducting surveillance of neighbors, taking photographs of private property, possibly accessing personal information through fraudulent means. Sarah thought about Jennifer's revelation of Karen's Freedom of Information Act requests. What kind of surveillance? Telephoto photography, monitoring daily activities, documenting visitors to properties. Several neighbors have filed complaints about feeling harassed. I had no idea other people were having problems with her. Most people don't realize how extensive her activities are until we compile all the reports. Her notes? Sarah felt a flicker of hope. Maybe Jennifer wasn't the only person who'd discovered Karen's violations. Detective, if someone were facing escalating complaints from a knee,